Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise and try and get a bit more expansive answer on a question asked in question period a couple of weeks ago. And I did ask the member from Northern Saskatchewan about the spike in food bank usage in Saskatchewan. 35% of children are food insecure. Over 30% of households are food insecure in our province. And the answer he gave me was really found lacking. He went on some rant about nothing that was even close to the question I was asked about food bank. Since I asked that question, new numbers has come out. For the first time, there's over 4 million visits to the food bank in Toronto. The numbers are actually quite staggering, Mr. Speaker, and I'll read some to the records. Canada food inflation has nearly doubled the Bank of Canada targets, and food prices have been rising 48% faster in Canada than the USA. Because quite often our friends across the way want to make this a global issue, but the food price increases is hitting Canada particularly harder than many of our other G7 partner countries, Mr. Speaker. So the question is, what is happening in Canada that isn't happening in other parts of the world? And we've asked this question time and time again, and the member from Whitby went on a rant that there is no hidden food taxes, Mr. Speaker, but that can be further from the truth. Some of the policies these Liberals have implemented over the last 10 years has led us to where so many Canadians are food insecure. Mr. Speaker, nearly 1 in 5 food bank clients are employed, but still can't make ends meet. 10 years ago, Mr. Speaker, that was not the case. If you had a good job, had a job in Canada, you'd be able to put food on the table for your family. That is not the case anymore, Mr. Speaker. It took a decade to reach 1 million visits in a month, and now it's taken half a decade to more than double that. That's a quote from the Hunger Count food report that just came out, Mr. Speaker. It took only a half a decade to double the food bank usage in our country. And we hear a lot from their side, and one thing that they trot out as their showpiece is the lunch program. And one thing that I can't figure out is, after 10 years, why are the Liberals proud that they're handing out food stamps? That isn't an endorsement of their policies. That's an indictment of it, Mr. Speaker. Parents want to be able to feed their own children. And what this Liberal government, under Justin Trudeau and now under the current Prime Minister, what they've done is strip that ability away. Canadians now pay more in taxes than they do in food, clothing, and shelter for their families. That's what this Liberal government has done with their reckless spending and their continued increases of taxes on Canadians. And they'll get up and they'll say, well, we took 22 million Canadians out of tax rolls. Well, yeah, that saved them $9 a month, Mr. Speaker. The fact that parents now drive past the grocery store to the food bank is an indictment on how bad this Liberal government has handled the finances of our country over the past 10 years. Inflation continues to spiral out of control. Food prices continue to go up. And I would love whoever's going to answer the question simply is, do they realize that having a food program in school is an indictment of the government, not a showpiece? Because parents would love to have the ability to feed their own kids. We don't want food stamps. We want good jobs on safe streets in the country that we love. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague across the way. And I just want to begin my speech with the facts. There's no food packaging tax. Industrial carbon pricing is not applied at the grocery store checkout. It is applied to large industrial emitters, the biggest polluters in Canada, and is structured in a way that ensures Canadian industries remain competitive while cutting emissions at the lowest possible cost. Canada's pricing system gives companies flexibility. They can cut emissions through innovation, buy credits from innovators, or invest in cleaner processes. This is not a cost imposed on families. It is a policy that holds polluters accountable while encouraging investment and growth. There's also no food tax. The evidence is clear. Inflationary pressures on food have been driven by global supply chain shocks, the war in Ukraine, and energy price volatility, not by Canada's carbon pricing policies. On plastics, the honourable member suggests that reducing single-use plastics is a tax on food. That is false. The single-use plastics prohibition regulations are not taxes. They are important regulations designed to prevent harmful plastics from polluting our rivers, lakes, and oceans. They target items like checkout bags, cutlery, stir sticks, and certain types of food service where made for hard-to-recycle plastics. These regulations are estimated to prevent the over 1.3 million tons of plastic waste and 22,000 tons of plastic pollution that would occur from the continued use of those single plastics between 2023 and 2032 without the regulations. Alternatives are already available. Canadian businesses across the country are making the transition successfully and are saving money by moving to reusable and recyclable options. I've come to understand that when the honourable members refers to the second carbon tax, that's code for the clean fuel regulations. What the member's argument fails to recognize is that the CFR actually creates economic benefits for farmers by creating demand for agricultural feedstocks for biofuels, a market mechanism that both benefits the climate and benefits our important farming sector. Mr. Speaker, eliminating industrial carbon pricing and clean fuel regulations, as the member opposite proposes, would undermine investment, cost jobs, increase pollution, and isolate Canada from global markets. These measures are not about rising costs. They're about protecting Canadians from higher costs of climate change and pollution. And just for me to touch on his evaluation of the food program, I come from a First Nation where there is a lot of people that have lived under the poverty line for many, many generations. And I see kids going to school now in my community with smiles on their face, food in their belly, and excelling in school. And that's because of programs such as this. So I really want to raise that as well, that in a First Nations community, these are very important measures. So climate action is economic action. Our policies protect families, support workers, and position Canada for long-term competitiveness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
I really appreciate that member's comment on a food program, because there were private food programs in place. I can think of some in my city: Chili for Children, Nutrient put in food programs, Mosaic had food programs, Mother Teresa Middle School has food programs for less fortunate kids. The problem you see, Mr. Speaker, is that there was programs in place, but they never had conversations with any of those groups that were delivering food programs as well. They just took a cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all program. 400,000 kids are supposedly, I'm not sure what the numbers are supposed to be going to get food. There's over 5 million kids below that poverty line that are using food banks every week, Mr. Speaker. So if they thought that was going to fix the problem, it hasn't. The solution is to bring back affordability, to lower food prices, to stop taxing parents to death, so that I said it, and I'll say it every time I'm on my feet, parents want to feed their own kids. And this government just can't help but stand in the way of that with their overburdensome regulation, red tape, taxes, and terrible fiscal policies.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me be perfectly clear, there is no food packaging tax in Canada. There's no industrial carbon tax on groceries. There are environmental and economic policies designed to cut pollution, protect health, and support competitiveness. Independent analysis confirms that food price inflation has been driven by global supply disruptions, not by federal climate measures. Abandoning policies would mean more pollution, more uncertainty, and higher costs in the long run. Canadians deserve solutions grounded in evidence, not slogans, and that is why this government is continuing to deliver. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.